Hello and welcome back to Tree of Statism. I'm Noah Goodman. I want to talk today about a video that Sargon of Akkad made, in which he mentioned that Richard Dawkins has began being kind of nostalgic towards Christianity, and I thought I would comment about it. The issue is that Richard Dawkins is, and may be in the future, a staunch atheist. In the past, he led the online fight against religion, and now he feels like the disappearance of Christianity may have had some negative effects. In the same video, Sargon also mentioned Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was part of the movement as well. She abandoned her Islamic faith, but now has kind of, but not exactly, converted to Christianity. It's a bit more complex. Also, Sargon himself is an atheist, although, in recent years, he has sympathies towards Christians. To explain the issue, I should first of all explain what Ayaan Hirsi Ali recently said in interviews. She mostly expressed love for Western liberal democracies and has come to the realization that these societies do not function without Christian morals. I'm not sure how she defines herself, but it seems she believes in Christianity more than she believes in a literal Christ who died for your sins. The issue, however, is not a new one. It predates them. There was a famous German philosopher called Nietzsche that is known for a quote that is commonly misunderstood. Nietzsche said that God is dead. The meaning was not that there was some guy named God that was alive at some point and now has died, but rather that society no longer believes in God. They may go to church, but they no longer believe in the same way they used to. This becomes a problem because without Christian morals, society will have to create new morals or descend into nihilism. As Nietzsche predicted, society did both. It created new ideologies that gave moral frameworks to society, ideologies like communism, fascism, and Nazism. It also descended into nihilism after these types of systems were rejected. Today we have a form of liberalism which at times is just nihilism. It is just a philosophical framework for nihilism. In this philosophy, if the individual desires something, it is reason enough to let them do it, unless you have a good reason for it. It is just an ideology that says, let people do whatever they want for any nihilistic reasons. The issue this creates for many atheists is that while they agree with the core assumptions of Christianity, they do not agree with the source of the legitimacy for these assumptions. They think that the removal of God from society will not affect the morals of the society. They have discovered that Nietzsche was right. However, an example may be needed. For example, in Japan, it was accepted that if someone is depressed or dishonored, he can commit suicide. Society would not try to stop him, they would help him with a ritual suicide. The idea was that if he feels so bad as it is, we should allow him to end his life. This is not something that is accepted in modern society. For example, if you talk about suicide rates among gay teens and transgender people, it is seen as kind of like a bug in the system. While someone might say, well, if they want to commit suicide, let them, help them, let's euthanize them for their own good. They don't want to suffer. However, most people would reject such a line of thinking. They think that, well, if we treat them in a way that makes them want to commit suicide, the problem is not how do they commit suicide better. The problem is we should try to make them feel better so that they don't want to commit suicide, because them dying is seen as a very, very bad thing. However, this is a core assumption of a kind of Western tradition that says that there is a sanctity to life, there is a holiness to life. This is a core assumption that atheists agree with, Although they don't agree with the source, they don't think that God created people in his image and therefore they are holy. Another issue that atheists have discovered is that while the Christian God is dead, Allah is alive and well. Muslims all over the world believe in him intensely, and Islam is expanding inside of Europe. And some atheists dislike that. They consider Islam to be far worse than Christianity. Now, when I say Allah is alive and well, I mean that Muslims will travel across the world and join jihadi groups, and will donate money, and will make the pilgrimage to Mecca, and they will act like Islam is the truth and not some old fairy tales. The new generations, nicknamed Millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha, are sinking into depression. It is not exactly clear why, and there are probably some materialistic reasons as well. However, two things that are also affecting it should be mentioned. The first is that part of the issue is that without meaning given by religion, life sometimes becomes meaningless and depressing. That is to say, if we're not striving for some larger goal, if we don't have some larger target that we need to advance, then your life is kind of meaningless. You are just another number in the statistics. If you play more video games or if you do more work, it doesn't really matter. Nothing really matters. The second point to mention is that nihilism is bad for the spirit, much like it can be bad for the body if you do drugs, alcohol, overeat, and smoke. If you are nihilistic, you end up doing things that kind of destroy your own spirit in the long term. Atheists should take religious texts seriously, even if they reject them as divine. They should see them as wisdoms of the sages that understood a subject but not fully, so they filled in the gaps with mystical words. With such hardline atheists regretting their war against Christianity, the question is, can the church make some sort of comeback? Can this church exist with a zombie God that is not entirely alive and not entirely dead? That is to say that while the believers do not believe in a literal God that literally controls the universe, will they obey the morals of this church as if the God literally exists and literally controls the universe? The question is then also what kind of God will be in this new church. Will it resemble the Christian false testament God that died for your sins, or will it resemble the Judeo True Testament God that killed you for your sins? There are a lot of texts to rely on, and the question is, what morals do you take, and who decides which morals are more important than others? To further explain the problem, I'd like to give you a metaphor. I call it the arbitrary border metaphor. Think of society as people walking by a cliff. Any who walk too close to the cliff may fall off. Any who stumble near the edge, near the cliff, can fall off. Society therefore has decided to place a fence 5 meters away to stop people from getting too close. Any who stumble at that distance are safe. They fall on the ground, but they are not near the cliff, so everything is okay. As time passes, new generations have come, and they no longer understand how and why there is a fence there in the first place. It is just there. It's always been there. Someone in the far past created it. We don't know why. It just is there. Some people ignore it. They don't really have a problem with the fence being there. Some people don't like the fence and think it's useless. Some people want to walk on the other side of the fence. Some people stumble near it and hit the fence on their way to the floor, and they think that the fence only does damage. Some people look and understand, and suddenly they come to the conclusion that it's perfectly safe to walk 4 meters away from the cliff. So the fence is removed and lines are drawn on the floor, and they indicate new legal paths. Now people are walking 4 meters away. However, more people come and say, wait, we changed it once. Why not walk 3 meters away? It's still safe, and we don't have to fall off the cliff that way.
or maybe they don't understand the cliff at all. A new path is drawn, and now people are walking 3 meters away. As time passes and there's no respect for the old way, new lines are constantly drawn closer and closer to the cliff. As they get closer, more and more people stumble and fall off the cliff. Eventually, a generation arrives that understands the problems of the cliff, but no longer understands how to build a fence, where the fence should be, and how the fence works. Religion often gives us arbitrary borders. People have a hard time setting these kinds of hard lines that seem arbitrary. When you're talking about a religious law, there isn't a question of why you shouldn't be eating pork. God said so. That's reason enough in a religion. When it comes to man-made laws, the problem is that laws can be changed. There is a parliament or a congress or any kind of legislative body that can change the law. Even constitutions can be amended. So we have a problem that when a generation arrives that no longer understands what the problem was that we solved, they no longer understand why the solution is even necessary.
Hey guys, I'd like to wrap up this video by reminding you to please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. All these things really help me out with the algorithm. If you have criticisms or think I can improve, comment. I'd like to get some feedback. And watch my other videos as well. If you like them as well, do the same over there. And if you really want to help me out, if you really want to take interest, you can always buy my book. It's on Amazon. And Kapistan by Noah Goodman.